Hello everybody and welcome to another fly tying session with your host Scott. In this session we're going to be tying a Welsh pattern called the Pen y Garreg. It originates from the reservoir just down the road in the Elan Valley, and there's not much literature about this particular fly. It's in my latest book in the Trout and Salmon Magazine, and I took one look at the fly and thought, oh, that'll work quite well at Nant and Moch, and guess what? It did. So I'm going to share it with you guys here. So in the vise we've got a Camazan B405 in size 10. You could use a B170 or a B175. Any standard wet fly or sprout hook will do. It's an Irish style wet fly, this one, and just so you guys know where we're going with it. For the tail we're going to be using some golden pheasant dyed red, the tippets part. For the rib we're going to be using some fine red wire. For the hackles, there are two. There's a parboard hackle and a collar hackle. We're going to be using Indian cockcape dyed black. However, the pattern does call for hen, so if you've got hen, use hen. For the body dubbing we're going to be using my dubbing box that I've made out of various walls. We're going to be using the black one. There is a butt on the fly as well. There's a lot to do with this one. And we're going to be using a Mirage tinsel. I bought this from a craft shop or sewing shop because I felt it was better than the lure flash one. And for the cheek, this is a bit of a cheat. I harvested some geese probably about 1.5 years ago now. I'm not sure exactly when. At our syndicate fishery. And I've managed to remove the biot. It's the leading edge of the primary feathers, the biot, and as you can see it was originally grey, hence a Canada goose, but then I've dyed it yellow, and it gives it's a very good substitute for jungle cock, and that's why I've done that. Really, I think that's covered all the materials anyway, so I'll get on and tie it. I've got a squeaky bobbin, we'll sort that out now. Hang on. That's better. I'm going to come in at the eye and bed the hook. I'll probably do a bit of a better job than this if I was not on camera. But I'm trying to be quick. Trim the excess away. Then get a length of your fine pearl or Mirage tinsel. This is more like a thread really, it's that small. It's ideal for this application. It's quite curly stuff, it's quite hard to tie in, so bear with me. Yeah, I missed. There we are, it's in. And then we're going to wind about halfway around the bend, like you would a tinsel body on any fly. I'm going to do touching turns, and you want to keep it quite tight as well because you don't want it to slip, but not so tight that you break it. And then we're going to come back up. You might have to pin the first couple. The thread's in the road, there we are. And then tie it off. and it's at this point you tie in your golden pheasant dyed red. First trim the excess tinsel away. There we are. Now if you wanted to, you could put a dab of varnish on there. That would definitely secure it. If I've got the time to stand here and wait for it to do that, to dry, I would. So I've got a feather already plucked here, so we're going to use that. You probably need between 6 and 10, depending on how heavily dressed you want the fly to be. Now how I do it is I actually get them so that they're already lined up. In theory. There we are, they're already lined up now. And snip off the quantity that you want. And then pull away. And then clamp them with the other hand. And they should all be in line. Now I normally tie them in at the black band, depending on the feather. But you want the tail to be about as long as the body. Trim that away. Then you're going to tie in your length of red wire. The original pattern calls for red wire, and I decided when I first tied this pattern I was going to ignore that and use me fine holographic tinsels that I use. Well, the first fish I hooked on the fly, the tinsel broke and the whole thing fell apart, so I'm going with wire. I should have listened to the pattern. I'm going to tidy up ready for our dubbing. Let's get the wire and the clip out the road. So you can buy these little toolboxes or well, I don't know what they're really called, but you can buy them anywhere. Storage boxes. The walls you can literally buy anywhere, and there is a video up where I'll show you how to make dubbing out of everyday acrylic walls using a coffee grinder. I'll just post the link either in the description or on a card on the video, so keep an eye out for that in your top right hand corner. It's performed quite well, that video, actually. And you don't have to be overly accurate with your dubbing, because to be honest with you, you're not going to see it. You want to leave plenty of room because you're putting on quite a large thick collar hackle on, so we're going to leave at least 2.5, maybe even 3 head lengths there. Then we're going to get a suitable feather for the palmed hackle. Now you want the feather for the body to be slightly shorter than the collar hackle feather. And that's probably a bit long, that one. We'll use that for the head hackle. That's more like it. Let's strip away the rubbish. Now you want to try and use all of this feather. It's a very heavily dressed pattern. It's meant to be fished on the top dropper. And for you purists out there, you could use it as an indicator. So we're going to tie that in really well to save us having a step there, and we'll actually trim it not close but about there. Should make winding the head hackle a little bit easier. The collar hackle. Get your hackle pliers You want to do a full turn behind the head, and you want a palmer, and you want to get as much of this feather on as you can. And I think that will do us. Then get your wire and wind the other way. Get one full turn in with your wire and rib evenly. Wind as if the hackle's not there. You don't need to worry about the hackle going anywhere. And tie in your wire. Pull the thread tight. Wiggle the wire. There we go, good old metal fatigue. And you want to trim the excess feather away. There shouldn't be much. There we go. And we got that feather we picked up for what I was going to use to palmer, but I'm going to use it for the head hackle now. There's no wing on this fly, so those of you who don't like wings on wet flies, because they are difficult to tie. There's a lot of people on YouTube that make it look easy. I'm not one of them. And then we're going to wind our collar hackle. Very similar to how you do a dry fly hackle. Yeah, and again, you want to get as many turns on as you can. You've almost got to overdress it. There we go, that's as many as I'm going to get on. And trim that away. You want to brush the fibres back. And then roughly form the head. You don't want too many turns in there. It's a really, really rough head at the moment because we're going to be putting our goose biot in now. And you need 2 pieces. I prefer to cut it away from the stem. You can strip it if you want. And then you've got a fairly sharp edge there. What you want to do is first of all cut it square, like so, and then you want to take the corners off. There is a natural curve in the feather, it sort of scoops up, look. You want that facing towards the fly. You're going to offer it up to the side of the head there. Now if you're really good and you know what you're doing, you can do both of these at the same time. A few turns to secure it, and then come in the other side. It's a bit short my side. Now jungle cock, unfortunately, is extremely expensive, and it's quite rare to find as well. It's not easy stuff to find. Anyway, they're tied in. So we're going to trim away. So a lot of us are forced to use substitutes. And that's what we've got here. So once you're happy, you can start tidying the head up a bit. Oops. Doesn't look half bad. And then whip finish. Now another version of this fly which I like to fish, it's a bit of heresy really, but is you can put a tungsten bead at the head. And I know it's not meant to be fished like that, but it does work well as an attractor pattern as well. So I've been known to do that. I fish it a bit like a mini lure, for example. It's the classic colour combination for wild brown trout is black and red, and silver as well. Now I don't think there's many versions of this fly on YouTube, if any. That's the classic Welsh wet fly, the Pen y Garreg. Thank you all very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.